Hello, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com. I want to make a video response to a question or a comment that I had, and it was what it was. It was relating to the idea of if I was to get lost or never heard of again, then how would they know when to put out my private videos? But the thing that it dawned on me when I read that comment, that people don't realize that well, nowadays people don't realize that loved ones are lost a lot. You see it in the movies. I don't know if you can relate to it, but they'll put pictures up. They'll put a picture up, and have you seen this person? And then and then you'll see a wall, and it'll be all kinds. And what it was, they've lost their kids, their spouse. No telling who it was that they lost, and that's when they put these up. They mainly have them in war zones. I'm sure in Afghanistan and Iran they've got these same things up, and because in war, I say things are really screwed up. Forget communications. Everything goes under military control. In other words, all the radio is controlled by the military. They're only going to say things that they want you to hear. A lot of times, if it's a loved one, what they'll do, boy, I understand people don't really realize, they don't think about this stuff. I understand that. In the United States, they don't. But in war, what they'll do is they'll kidnap people. And then if, especially political type stuff, leaders of different organizations and stuff like that, they'll kidnap, if they don't kidnap the person himself, they kidnap their kinfolk. And so that's one way of loved ones disappearing. But also, Katrina is a good example. They have to leave. There's an emergency. They have to leave. They'll put a sign on the door. John, we went to Aunt Mary's house. And John doesn't make it. Either John didn't find the note, or when they got to Aunt Mary's house, it wasn't there. People perish all the time. People are looking for people all the time. Another thing, see, I think it's funny. A lot of things, I've been either directly or indirectly involved in many things. Like I say, my father married my mother. She was like 19, he was like 41 years old. I don't know, this was back in the 40s, late 40s. But the thing was, my dad came from China. I say I'm half Chinese. In the 30s, the Japanese took over China. There was no communications. People lost their loved ones. My father had a family in China. He had a wife and 2 sons. And so he came to the United States legally, and he was getting his life together. Like I say, he came in the 20s, and then getting his life together. And then in the 30s, when Japan took over, they killed millions of Chinamen. And there's no contact. There's no mail at that time. There wasn't any mail, telegraph, and all this kind of stuff. Everything is all under control. They take control under bad times. The government takes control, either military or the government. So he didn't know if he still had a family or not. He didn't know if they were alive or dead. He had no idea at all. And then World War II came. And then that's when I came around, is, like I say, late in the 40s. And then, so he remarried. And then sometime after that, they were able to establish communications again, and he found his family. After over 20 years, he lost his family, and over 20 years, he got his family back again. So this stuff happens. It can happen for a few days, few weeks, few months, or like in my family's case, a few years. So here, my father had two families, two wives, and things happen. And when it's funny, because when you travel with me, there's things that you will learn. Of course, I'm going to teach you some self-defense tactics, of course. And then there's certain procedures that I say, now I'm in the car. If we're on a motorcycle, we have different procedures. But I say, if you're traveling with me in the car, there's a certain time you get out of the car and a certain time you don't get out of the car. When you travel with me, you will have a key to the car. In case I either perish or I disappear, something like that, you will have, you'll be able to take the car and get out. There's a time, I know, I try not to separate. We don't want to separate. But there are situations where things are so overwhelming, so bad, that you do end up separating. And we make plans for that. I talk about that. When we travel, this gas station, this is where we had gas. Once we leave this gas station, until our next stop, if anything happens, you come back to that gas station. If it was a rest area, we come back to that, the last place we were at, that's where you would go. That's the first place you would go. And then depending on where we're at, like when I'm down here and I don't know anybody, even if I did know them, I couldn't call them. If I did call them, I couldn't talk to them. So it's different there. There's certain hotels that we would meet at, and this way you could stay there 2 or 3 days until I got there, or a week or so, and then after that you can go on and catch a plane and get out of here. And you know to check with that hotel to find out if I perished or just got lost. So there are situations and times when loved ones get separated, and I prepare for it because I know this stuff happens. And like I say, really, you really need to have the whole system set up, even for your house. Like I said, like Katrina, when you leave your house, you have to be able to notify where you went, and so they know where to find you. But you don't count on the police and the military to help you, or the government. This is Mike. NoStressMike.com.